Honestly, I wouldn't pot it.
What's up, everybody? This is the poker coaching study session, and today we're gonna be looking at a few node locks. So first, we're gonna be looking at the Jack 7-4 board with a flush draw. So I was asking Ken, what does he think people are doing in general? This is for 40 big blind button versus big blind. So my first guess was that people are gonna be range betting small. Instead of using like all these different size and then checking also a lot. Check on this texture, basically, you're checking a lot and betting big a lot. And figuring out what it's like. You should be betting big a lot with like your top pairs or your over pairs. And then things that wrap around spades. And then like ace of spade or king of spade or stuff like that. But first thing to look at is this is the original pile strategy facing a bet small. This is our response as the big blind. And then I did the node lock. I ran it already. And if we face a range bet small instead of mixed strategy. The first response, like here, we raise big around 20% of the time, where here we don't really raise big a lot. So we get rid of the small raise size, we just raise big a lot.
And we got more bet. We're gonna bet our value wider. So we get more bluffs too, right? That's what it looks like.
We fall as often, call as often. And then we can compare strategies. So let's look at the first line. Right, let's just look at these two for now. So ace 10 plays the same. But if you look at ace 7, already there's a big gap, right? So ace 7 here, what is that? That's just like second pair no spade. So you check raise big with second pair no spade here. If your opponent is range betting. So let's just,
And what was, oh, okay, I see how you have it set up. It's determining the ace 7 is probably a value bet, I imagine. Versus a range bet. Small.
say that again?
It's value betting the 7, I imagine, versus a range bet small. The ace 7.
Jack of spade, 7 of spade, 4 of hearts. Facing. Instead of the mix strat, we. Big. A lot more. Check raise big a lot more. And then we use hands like second pair. Okay, so let's look at the other 7.
Only
King
the ace.
7,
The other ones are 2 pairs,
okay,
except 7-5's got some slivers. That's got a redraws. That's probably like spades.
alright, so it's the only 7 kind of for now, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's because he's calling with ace high.
Ace 5, there's also a difference here, but the difference lies with the ace of spade. So ace of spade here, if you see.
Yep.
And then ace 3 is the ace of spade, ace deuce the ace of spade. So you check raise big more with the naked ace of spade. Naked. King, what about, let's jump one line. King, jack, acting the same. King 10 off. King 9 off. I wanna see first here. King deuce off. Yeah, okay, so it's the spade, whereas here. Not really picking the spade, a little bit. But it's really liking these high-low combos. I can kind of make the straight here with one spade and with the king of spade, for example. And then
That's finding more,
straight interaction, right?
yeah, it's finding more bluffs because we're betting more value hands. So we have to dig more for some bluffs. We're betting our top pair much more often now. So we have to find more of this crap.
Man.
Right? Let's look at the third line, queen, jack. Queen ten. Well, so what is queen, jack here? Top pair, good kicker, okay? Queen ten is what? It's just a spade.
Backdoor straight draw.
Okay, and then this one here, same thing, same pattern. So that's something common. You check raise a lot of your, queen ten
So-
off here?
What I would say here is I would rather raise actually like queen 10 and queen 9 more than those like high-low king 3, king 2 stuff, ace 2, ace 3. Cause they have an over as well, which is fine, and they got an over to the 7 as well. So they have 2 overs to the 7, they have an over to the jack, they got the backdoor straight, they got the backdoor flush. I think I like those better if I was gonna try to build this strategy myself as an exploit.
I feel like we've seen both of those types of hands a lot, like wrapping around top pair and high-low with through to a straight, through to a flush. It's all, yeah. It's all good.
Yeah, so this is node locked, Tim. So
No, I
we're
understand.
digging. Oh, okay, I was gonna say, so
I
I didn't
understand,
know
but
if
it's
you
still
heard the
like,
beginning.
those are the kinds of bluffs we always look for, like wrapping
Yeah.
around the top pair, like through to a straight, through to a flush, like it's still finding sort of sensible bluffs, it's just finding a lot more of them.
So fourth line. We kind of play the top pair similarly, except that we pick lower and lower kickers.
Yeah, and like jack 10's full now, jack 9's full, jack 8's full, and then like jack 7's 2 pair, and then then you're lower, like you're betting them all now. Some frequency.
Okay. 10-9 off. Alright, let's add one pin. Well. This portion here, 8-6 off. Okay, yeah, wrap around could be a straight with a spade in the hand.
I like that one, actually.
So. Like check raise, but big, the sizing here matters, right? Check raise big. A lot more. We get rid of the small size even.
Now, I do like those high lows a lot more because they have the front door flush draw.
Okay. And then I was talking with Galen and Galen actually said people might not be range betting like this. He said people might be betting small for sure. But possibly not always.
Yeah, there's different types of players, right? There is that, you get node lock. This is the player that you see that just always see bets, and that's the no lock. Then you can make another node lock, like I guess you're doing now. Yeah,
So this guy here, he bets small 66% of the time and he checks 35% of the time.
yeah, you got those guys out there.
So what should we do against this type of guy?
I think that's gonna be very similar to the initial strategy.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, it seems pretty balanced.
That's very, very different now.
Yeah, is it very close to the initial GTO strategy, the non-node lock?
It doesn't look like it at all. Look at
Oh,
this.
wow.
Can we see the GTO betting strategy again? The GTO C betting strategy?
Super mixing.
So, right, so he has big bets and a lot of checks, but also small bets and,
And I don't think people are doing that, right? On Jack 10, Jack 7, 4.
I mean, they're not finding like some of the big bets that they're supposed to have with like Queen 9, Jack 10. Yeah, they definitely don't have that stuff.
So we're exploring a little bit.
Okay.
So if our opponent checks a lot and see bet small a lot. This is what we should be doing.
Louis, can I ask for a second? How did you generate that that last range you're looking at? The opponent's C betting small 66% of the time?
Yeah, I did it. I know locked it.
But kind of like, did you kind of guess? Did you like how'd you come up with it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, basically I did the first one as a range node lock.
Right, of
And
course.
then we looked at the strategies quickly. Result was check raise big a lot. And then I was talking with Galen about it and Galen said, well, people might not range bet small as I would here. So people might go bet small and then check like 30, 40% of the time. So I said, sure. And then I ran it again.
Did you
With
just drag the
more
slider
checking.
down?
Yeah, more checking. Which is not this one. We're not gonna close this one. Yeah. So this one is here. So we have him
I'm
checking.
just wondering, did you limit him to only be allowed to bet 30 and check and then have him produce a strategy? Is that where this
On,
strategy came from?
on this node, yes.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
guess the idea is that he has a lot of the strong stuff now in the small bet range that used to be betting big, so we can't raise as much.
Yeah,
And that
exactly.
allows him to bet he's betting every single combo still, he's just not betting them full frequency.
So now check raise a lot less.
Like if we look at the initial strategy and the hands that bet big, like probably ace jack and stuff like that, not and queens and all that,
yeah.
now it's all betting small instead, so even though he's betting a lot of stuff, it's still a stronger range, I guess.
Yeah,
Well, let's look at the EVs. It shows it here. Imposition EV 63. How about in the GTO strategy?
So I think there's a extra degree of this also, like, that we aren't kind of considering if we're thinking about not check raising as much. It's, are they defending versus check raise appropriately? So like, if they're under defending, I think that would play into those frequencies also on the flop.
Why are the EVs different? Should they be exactly the same?
no,
Yeah.
but the strategy is,
Look, go to the flop before any actions. It should be exactly the same, right?
No,
Why not?
because you're using a different betting strategy.
It's the same ranges and there's
It's not
nothing happened
equity,
yet.
it's EV. It's, it's like how much does it expect to earn over the course of,
Oh, so
well,
what's,
turn
so
over
the
betting.
equity would be exactly the same then?
Yeah, equity would be the same.
Equity would be the same. That's correct. Yeah, like,
Just check the
obviously,
equity to make sure everything's copacetic. Very
Yeah.
good, very good, very good, very good. Okay, I'm sorry.
what's the difference?
No
So
difference.
Galen, are you suggesting we lock his response to our check raise as well? Or just
I
at
think
least
it-
take a
I think you should. Like, I don't think people are gonna defend versus check raising as efficiently as a solver would, so. I think it plays into the strategy before we just draw the assumption that we shouldn't check raise. In certain scenarios.
Right, yeah, if we're assuming the weak player is in position. Right, I think that's a good, I think you do have to lock that as well, because if they're making mistakes. With their betting range, they're gonna make mistakes with their calling and folding ranges, so. I mean, that's what you're targeting, right? So.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's good. They're gonna under defend. That's probably a key aspect of this as well.
So Louis, after the bet goes in, after the bet 30, what's the EV of both the strategy and GTO?
The EV after what?
Yeah, right here, on this node, after the bet went in, the EV's 29.8 here. And then in, yeah, wow. Wow. It's a huge difference
Yeah, it starts to be a bigger and bigger, right?
from a really flawed C betting strategy.
Mhm. And then if we look at the first node there,
So the big blind loses EV when they're making a mistake?
That's what I was just wondering. Seems kind of weird.
No, it's not. It's,
it's
I mean, yes and
giving you-
no. They have like a excessively strong small bet range. You know, it's like if he tells you that he has like kings and queens a lot here, then you're gonna find more folds, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so we must gain the EV against check?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That would have to be it.
So,
And you could come up with other scenarios here, like, you know, this is a fair hypothetical to look at. I think there's another one that exists in our games where like the third sizing is just garbage. It's just so much garbage. And then like all the good top pairs are like 50%. And like queens are like never less than 50%.
For sure. I've been attacking those with great success, especially on turns when they're like going small and it makes no sense. I'm like,
Yeah,
alright, we don't have
it's
anything.
such not a thing. Yeah, you don't have anything. You have like an under pair a lot of times. They're like betting second pair for value, and then you can just blow them straight off of it.
so that was the first one. And then. Here. Check 7, 4. There we go. I found a very similar pattern on a king 9-6 board. So this is the actual GTO strategy. Okay, so this is what I thought a lot of people would be doing, or at least what I'm doing on a king eye board button versus big blind. I'm range betting small a lot.
It's another board that has a decent amount of large bets, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then,
Cause you have the straights from both sides and the high cards are good for us. We have the nut advantage.
yeah. And then I'm gonna open it again. Maybe. Right? And king 9-6, king 9-6. So what do you guys think people are doing on this type of texture?
It seems like another appropriately mixed strategy, like there's. Two sides of straight draws, there's. A
Think
flush
people-
draw.
Do you think people are going all in a lot?
Probably, well, how deep are we? I'm sorry, I missed that
Never.
part.
40 big blinds.
40
single
bigs,
raise
right?
pot.
Never.
Seems crazy. I just don't think you find that.
Alright. Flop over bet? Not really.
Never.
Never. I mean, just effectively, it doesn't exist. And like, if we're talking about exploits, we're not trying to exploit the opponent who does know how to do that. Like,
Good point, Tim.
Almost never.
So you guys tell me what to note like.
I think they have like maybe a small and a big size, maybe 30 and 65. That's reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's probably okay.
I mean, there's some people I think that'll, yeah, nah, yeah, I think that's good. I don't think people are potting this much unless they have like, yeah, they're not potting this flop.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but having those two sizings is like a place to start.
You guys think people are checking 40%?
Nope.
No.
Make it 30, maybe. That's not crazy, right? They still find some checks. You could make it lower. You could make it 25, but I think that 30 is fair.
I mean, I don't feel like people check. So like,
So-
I think if we're targeting the people, I think I think the node lock is. We are targeting the player type that doesn't check, right? Or almost never checks.
We already have the range bet.
Yeah,
It's
but we
already-
already cut out 10% of checks, so like that's a pretty significant thing to drop. I'm like, we're thinking of, I'm thinking of like, how do we name this guy? This is like a kind of like a bad reg guy. This is a guy who like knows something about poker. He knows about c-betting. He's played for years.
Yeah, that's smart, Tim. Like you need to build the player archetype and try to build around that.
Yeah, but he's just like he's just not that dialed in. He hasn't really like done this kind of work that we're doing right now.
So I had brought this up, I don't know, 6 weeks ago or so, and I noticed, I started seeing I started recognizing a pattern where I see a guy that with a very high C bet percentage, 85% plus, 90% plus, right? And then they check and I'm like, what the hell is he checking for all of a sudden? And then I see them show down, like they flopped a set where they flopped a straight, right? Like they just flopped the nuts and all of a sudden they want to find a check and get trapped.
Well, that's the initial player archetype we were talking about. Like, you could fit that into the guy who C bets like 100% of the time.
And this one I think is like this strategy that Louis is node locking here. It's representing some things that I think we all know to do. Like, what is it checking tons with? It's checking tons with its weakest kings. King deuce doesn't really want to build a pot. It's checking with queens. That's not crazy. It's not a terrible strategy. It's just not balanced appropriately, right?
Yeah, well, that's the player, right? It's the player who's done some modern poker theory, but misapplies some common mistakes and just isn't that dialed in, like you said, Tim. So it's like, they recognize that a flush draw and maybe a jack high board is gonna have you check some of your range,
So
but they're
like
screwing
this,
parts of it.
we
Yeah,
wanna change something here.
no, I think what you have is good. I think like over C betting, missing some checks, missing some really big sizes. I think those are common leaks.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, that strategy there was balanced. It's actually not a terrible strategy. It's probably better than what I could, balance out, but we're
Alright,
gonna see that it's still exploitable.
so let's explore what we should be doing or the difference against a range bet small. Cause this is already ran. And the other one is running. So percentage, let's look at it. Same folding percentage, same calling percentage, raise small, oh. So the first difference is here. So again. Again, it's the same pattern as this one.
So what I'm seeing is we use a larger check raise and we bet wider for value, which naturally makes you have to take for some more bluffs.
So
You got spot on, Ken?
on king of spade, nine of spade, six of hearts. If facing a range that instead mix strategy. We again check big a lot. Alright, what type of hands? The top pairs? We dig a little bit further in the top pairs or no? Not really, right? It's the same.
Ah,
It's just the same one, just everything going big.
wait, you got king eight full,
Huh? I'm sorry?
king eight's betting more often, king seven's betting more often, offsuit, king six is betting more often, about the same. King six is two paired.
Higher frequencies, but same combos, right?
Yeah, king six is two paired, but yeah, higher yeah, higher
Not
frequency.
picking any different combos. It's just. Flipping the small size for a big size. What's jack five here? Spade, spade, jack four, jack five. Let's check.
Bad spade draws.
So how about second pairs? You're betting second pair more often.
The nine, let's look at the nines.
No,
It doesn't look like it, right? Checking very heavy with nines and build both. And sixes are checking as well, very heavy. What about two pair? Two pair seems to be the hand that doesn't mind still check raising small, top and bottom. But top, I see. Top is not like that.
Yeah, I'd forget about the small check raise, 'cause it's such a
Bottom
small
two as
percentage.
well.
I would just,
It's a big one, Ken. The bet is 30 and you raise to 134.
yeah, I mean, I would just abandon the 4%, cuz then you gotta start finding slivers of shit, like, you're not gonna implement that, you just. Use the
It's like
bet.
4.5x, almost 5x.
Yeah, just bet big and be done with it. Raise big, I should say, and be done with it.
I wonder, typically I would go for like a 105 type size here.
Yeah, Danny,
Which
actually, I was
we
just
don't
having
allow.
that thought. I'm like, even a mergey bet's probably good there. If you go like, make it like 100 or whatever, it's probably good, 110, something like that. I don't know what percentage that is, but. You know,
If you size up, I think it's great,
yeah.
whatever.
I mean, I just, instead of clicking a small, I could just have my presets. Just you click the big one instead of the small one, whatever it is, I'll be good with.
Let's wait one more blue.
I guess bottom two is the hand that maybe changes the most from 50-50. It's almost always raise.
And to be honest, out of position, I almost always use the big check raise size anyhow. I hardly ever check raise small unless I'm shallow or stacked. Then I screw around with small check raises, but I rarely use a small check raise out of position.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised the 78 is so represented in the GTO strategy. Seems very small on this board.
I get it. What's Galen's saying about like final table? It's a game of jabs. You know, the
Mhm.
solver is really good at just like poking back and forth and
Yeah, that's ICM. Like, I mean, that's, yeah, completely different, right?
but I think but I think it applies throughout solver strategies. Like they're willing to use scalpels. They're willing to like, only use the bet size that's required. Whereas like you get, our opponents who get excited about their hand and then shove for 1.5x pot in spots that they just like don't need to,
Alright, so this is marginal reg, right?
Marginal reg.
So against marginal reg.
Probably better than us.
How does our strategy differs from GTO?
Well, did you adjust marginal reg's defense range
We did.
versus like a check raise? Who's the? Okay,
If you
so
make
is,
it, if you make me the marginal reg, I don't fold the check raises.
we're not playing Ken, we're playing marginal reg Ken.
Okay, so
Uh,
let's shoot that 134 at it and see
I
how
have
much.
it, I have like a 20% fold to check raise, so you can go ahead and stick me in there as the shit reg.
This is what
No,
you
but
see them?
Yeah, but no, but after he 134 is what's imposition supposed to do?
Hang on. You mean against a big bet on the flop?
No, I
No,
guess
like-
check raise.
Yeah, bet 30 and then raise.
Actually, I'm doing a much better job of folding check raises now, because I realize I just quick look at who they are and say, yep, they haven't never have a bluff and just overfold.
They
it.
just have like top pair, second kicker when they check
Trips.
raise you. That's all
Whatever.
they have every time.
Unless they have a tag, unless I have them tagged as a good player, I just fold.
So what do we see here? He never folds spades. He never folds a king.
So from this point here, both strategies seems to be very similar.
right, so that's what I'm saying, like, does shit reg actually if he's messing up his RFI ranges, do you think he's messing up his check raise defense ranges?
I mean, yeah,
Of course.
Galen, your question's really on point, and the answer's like he's definitely not got it all dialed in. But the trick is, if you really wanted to go down that tree, you have to know like every single node in the entire strategy, like all the way to rivers.
Well,
See, I was wondering if you, oh, I understand what you're saying. I was wondering if you could just kind of end it with the street. Because like people aren't really studied past like like the check raise,
I think I got an
raise
easy answer for
strategy.
you.
Sure.
I think you can just no lock him to fold all of his backdoor draws. That if it's showing backdoor draws calling here, I think if you could no lock each individual combo to fold backdoor draws, I think it'd be pretty close.
Yeah, maybe so, right?
Can we see if you filter on hearts? What he's supposed to do?
But the trick is like so many of his hearts have gut shots of various kinds, you know,
Well, you
like,
can, well, that's, so if you have a gut shot, then you got a backdoor draw, like, if you, all right, if you have a combo draw, fine, keep those in, right? Like,
right?
you know,
And it's raising back a lot of those like 10-8, king jack, etc. Or sorry, jack 10, yeah, 10-8.
I'm gonna probably guess that most people aren't gonna do that either with backdoors.
Yeah,
Not gonna-
Oh, this is the
bet.
wrong node.
They're not three betting those.
Yeah,
This is
right.
the big blind. I wanted to look at after the raise, the defense range.
Just a second. So here, yeah. What do you wanna see that?
Click raise 134 and then select the hearts. And we can see if,
So I think like here, for instance, I think a lot of players are gonna struggle to defend 5-4 hearts. Are they supposed to call that to versus a check raise?
nope.
Oh,
No.
No,
too
So what-
spicy.
What are they calling? King two, that's good, right? So what do we got here? I could barely see.
It looks pretty natural. It's all the ones with a pair or a gutter.
Okay, so like, how about queen 10, queen jack with a single heart? Those are kind of dicey.
They're
I
gutters
could see
though.
myself. Yeah, I mean they're bare gutters, but like also folding queens 70% of the time here. Like, am I folding queens 70% after seeing one check raise? Or am I like,
I'm never folding,
or am
ever.
I like, fuck this guy, let's see a turn? You know?
I ain't folding queens, I ain't folding jacks, I ain't folding
Okay.
tens.
See, because I would almost lean the other way, Galen, where I think people might over defend to the check raise, because the stuff you're supposed to call is all very natural, and then it's like, are people folding queens? I don't think so, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the question. I don't necessarily have an answer, but like everyone's got like their opinions and their quirks about the situation. It's like we're trying to build a generic player that you're playing against. Like if you guys come to a consensus that, okay, they're defending these types of combos and not defending these type of combos is kind of the idea. I mean, everyone's played in the pools a pretty good bit, so it's like we should have some kind of bearing. Like you gotta look outward, not inward, you know? It's like, we know what we do. What do we think
we-
they do?
What we need to do is we need to play like 10 million hands on ignition. Download all those hands, run some database analysis on it, and then get to work.
Well, which the hardest
Oh, yeah.
part, this is the hardest part because we don't get to see what they fold.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair to do it the way Louis is doing, where we just like node lock this first step or two.
Mhm.
And then,
So
we
then-
already saw that like the strategies are already diverging a lot, even if they're playing future streets perfectly, given the node locking.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think it's a reasonable like toy game to look at. No one thinks that this is like the strategy you must implement at all times.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I think it's interesting to look at. I just wasn't sure how their check raise defense might influence our check raise
yeah,
strategy.
well, I'll tell you what, the next one we're gonna do now is against, we're gonna play with the check raise. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody.